Hey guys, thank you for tuning in. Today we're here with a friend and a very successful coach, Jeff Clark. He's out of Kansas City right now. He used to be the manager of Life Sport Athletic Club, which is a huge company with four clubs in Chicago. He also trained a professional tennis player on the wheelchair tour, the ITF. This guy has been currently ranked in the top 15 in the world, which is nothing nothing very easy to accomplish. And again, Jeff right now has switched to personal coaching and personal development. So without further ado, I want to introduce to Jeff. Thank you, Jeff, for being here, and please say hi to the audience. And we'll start with a few questions that explains what you do. Okay. So Jeff, first question for you: what is personal development? What that means?
Well, first of all, thanks for taking the time to speak with me today, Javier. It's been a while and always a pleasure to chat with you. So,
Pleasure.
pretty generically, personal development, everybody always needs to continue to improve in their life. When you think about growing up, you went to school, you went to elementary school, junior high, high school. Most people end up going on to college and continue to train. And then after that, the learning and development ends. So basically, you work under the impression that by your mid 20s, you have nothing else to learn, which is a bit ridiculous. And so the idea behind personal development is there's always things to continue to learn, and what path are you going to take to continue to develop as a person, in all aspects of your life. Where I'm continuing to put the majority of my focus right now is going to double down a little bit more on the teen and early 20s, the athlete, and people just getting into the workforce, and continue to work on controlling the mindset and continuing to look with a positive outlook of how they can continue to grow and not go, this is just how I am. One of the most frustrating phrases that I ever hear people go is, oh, that's just how I am, you got to deal with it. It's like, well, no, that's not how you are. You can continue to change and build and grow, and we just have to kind of change the way you think about yourself and your life, and that's kind of what I do now.
I see. Okay. So it's personal development tied up to mindset coaching? How is that related, or what is mindset coaching compared to personal development? Because I have heard these terms thrown on the web, and I'm not exactly know what that means. What is
So
mindset?
personal So personal development can be a whole lot of different things, and you see a lot of different life coaches, personal development coaches that talk about different aspects. Whether it's your business coach teaching you how to be better in your career, or you got your athletic coaches that are teaching you how to be better in a specific sport, nutrition coaches. I mean, it's very it can be broken down into more niche areas. So personal development's a pretty broad thing. But the reality is that underlying all of that is, how do you think? What's your mindset? If you don't believe that you can change, then your mindset is what's called a fixed mindset, and that's just how you are. So it takes a little bit of time, and there's a lot of steps and processes to change the way that you think, that you actually can get better, despite what you are currently thinking.
Okay, so what can you give me an example? Let's say you look at me and you say, Javier, I think you need to improve your mindset. What would be a way that I could work on that? Can you give me an example of how would be? We do a session. What do I need to do, or what would be an exercise, or how do I need to think in order for me to start changing my mindset?
So first of all, as a successful athlete, you already are on the path with a pretty solid growth mindset that you believe that you can improve. The difference with people with a fixed mindset, or sorry, you have a growth mindset already. So people with a fixed mindset go, I just can't change that. And so that mindset comes from, and all mindsets come from your experiences.
Okay.
If you were not successful in the past, you believe it's just not meant to be and there's nothing you can do. You keep failing your math test as a kid. Oh, I'm not very good at math. I just suck at math. That's the way that it is. I'm good at other things, but math I'm not very good at. No, you could be good at math. You just need to spend a little bit more time and change your processes. So exercises that you would do in order to change that is we got to teach you how to have some confidence. Um, I like to go back to tennis since I spent 20 years coaching tennis, or more than 20 years. Uh, the idea of just go for the ball. If you're all the way out wide on one side and somebody hits to the open court, you have a choice. You can either stand there and go, good shot, or you can bust your tail and try to get over there and see what happens. If you stand there, obviously you lost the point. That's life. There's nothing you can do about it. But if you go for it, even on a shot that you don't think you could get to, now you know for sure. You might surprise yourself that you can get there. And all it takes is a couple of times getting to balls that you didn't think you could get to go, huh, I guess I can do that. And then it kind of feeds you into the idea of trying to do some other things that you didn't think you could do before that.
So how do you end up getting into, how do you come up with the idea of you becoming a mindset coaching? How this came up to you?
It took a little bit of time. It developed on accident, really. I've been teaching tennis for almost 25 years now, and it's interesting the number of students that I started coaching when they're 5, 10, 15 years old that I'm still in contact with now that aren't even necessarily tennis players, but call me and reach out and are, looking for advice on things. I recently reconnected with a girl here in Kansas City about a month and a half ago, and told her this is what I was getting into. And she said, that's perfect. You were way more than a tennis coach for me. It was like a big brother and my mentor and somebody that I could look to. And that's kind of what I've always seen. My goal for the last 15 years as a tennis coach was less about teaching you how to hit the ball and more about how to play the game, especially in tennis, but in sports and in life, it's really more about how you play than the natural skills that you potentially have. How to hit the ball is a very small piece of thinking through the strategy of what you want to do, recognizing the situation that you're in, recognizing the strengths and weaknesses of the person that you're playing. And those are the things that I've really enjoyed trying to work through and teach people and help them understand, well, you did this because you were thinking this way. If you play the point in this way, win or lose, this is what's going on in your opponent's head. So you may have lost this point, but you're going to end up winning points down the road because now they've got in the back of their head, hey, this is what happened last time I did this. And you can start to control the situation that way. So, I've said for 20 years now, I may not have the most talented people, but I have the hardest working and the smartest players on the court. And that's always my goal is, can I get you to work harder than the next person? And can I get you to be smarter than the next person? And if you can do that, you're going to beat a lot of people that you shouldn't be beating, as they might say.
Very good. So basically, kind of started. I guess is because you saw when you were coaching tennis, you saw tennis as a tool for personal development, and you realize how some of this stuff will transfer to real life or regular life, basically, not just
Absolutely.
athletic performance. So, what makes you qualified to do this?
I think tennis more than any other sport in the world is the most like life. I was speaking to somebody about this a few months back, and his argument was, well, golf is the same kind of thing. It's just you. And I said, well, not really. Golf is just you, but you also have your caddy that's helping you guide. And, this is what the wind is doing, and this is the club I think you should be doing. But there's no other opponent. It doesn't matter what the other golfer is doing. It doesn't affect the way you play whatsoever. But in tennis, you have all of the elements. It is just you out on the court. You have to be able to develop your strengths and recognize your weaknesses. But you also have to learn to control your opponent and understand that you only control half of what's going on, which is life. You don't control all of life. You can put a lot of it into perspective and you can take more control, but you never know what life's going to throw at you. And you have no idea what your opponent's about to throw at you. You can put yourself in a situation where there's a high percentage that this is what's likely going to come back. I keep attacking towards a high backhand on your opponent. You're probably going to get a weaker ball back all the time. But who's to say that something doesn't come out of their tail end and go, oh my goodness, that was the most amazing shot they've ever hit. You
That's
did all
right.
the right things. It just didn't work out. And so I think that that's life. You can be doing all the right things at work, working your butt off, coming in early, doing all these kinds of things, and layoffs happen. Well, you did
Yeah,
all the right things, it just didn't work out. And so I think knowing how to handle that mentally, and again putting yourself in a position, and knowing what's going on at all times, that if you do this, this is likely to happen, but be prepared for any other options. I think that's crucial. So in 20 plus years of successful coaching in tennis, which again is very much transferable to life, I think there's nobody better to be able to have that experience.
I see. Very good. How does it work?
So basically, as far as what my process is,
Your
when we,
process.
yeah,
Yeah, your
yeah.
process work. Your process work.
So the way it works with my process is I've teamed with a behavioral company that I give you a 10-minute behavioral assessment, the kind of personality assessment that kind of answers some questions that you may not know about you. And so once I get the information back from that, then we discuss that and kind of go, okay, I don't know if you're aware of this, but this is how you think, and because this is how you think, this is where you make these decisions. And it's not a pass fail. There's positives and negatives. Being an extrovert isn't better than being an introvert, for example. But there are 24 different pieces of this puzzle that we get back and go, okay, so the situation that you're in, you're reacting this way because this is where things kind of come through. Have you thought about it from this standpoint? That somebody in this type of mindset is going to think about it in this way. And so again, we kind of help you learn a little bit more about yourself than you potentially have realized, a little bit deeper than what's on the surface. And then go, okay, what are your goals? Why are you here? What are you looking for? Are you here as an athlete that's, a baseball player that can't seem to hit the ball properly, even though, you're doing all the things that your coach told you to do about, making the swing right and timing and all these kinds of things? What's going on in your head? And so once we learn kind of what your goals are, then we put together a plan step by step that's going to help build your confidence. We touch base once a week and kind of go, okay, have you done the steps that we're supposed to be doing during that time to get you on the right path?
I see. Now, when you so the people that come with you, are they athletes? What kind of people normally you working right now with? What type of people?
Right now, it's strictly athletes.
Strictly
Athletes, yeah, that are looking to, and it just, I think more than anything, that's the background that I've been in, is the sport of tennis. And
yes.
so a lot of the people that I'm dealing with right now are coming from me because of that expertise. But again, this can translate into a whole lot of different things. I've worked with some people in the past that are baseball players. I mean, it's really stuff that can transfer. So I think, I'm even dealing with, again, former players that are having issues in the professional world, trying to get through confidence issues, and how I think through this process. So right now, yes, the clientele that I have is a lot of teens and early 20s that are athletes that are, playing in high school, trying to get to college, in college, trying to work through their seasons that way. Um, but really, this is a process and a program that can help anybody that's struggling with a mindset issue, that can't seem to get any confidence. I feel like I'm doing all the right things, but I'm not having any kind of success. What's going on here? And those are the people that I'm looking to help guide through this.
Okay, Jeff, you mentioned the word confidence. What's confidence to you?
Confidence to
Or,
me,
or according to this concept, because I've been doing interviews with different tennis coaches, and that freaking word of confidence comes out all the time.
yeah.
And how do you get it?
Um,
Because, for
confidence is a
example,
stuff.
I'll give you an example. One of the kids that he was I trained him when he was younger. He became a very good player. When I'm talking about very good, he was world ranked, and he said he stopped because he didn't have confidence enough, and he said I
Right,
was delusional enough.
right.
So so how he should have worked on this
Well,
or there is a chance to work, or you cannot get what you got.
no, no. I mean, the idea of you got what you got is that fixed mindset that we talked about before, and there's nothing you can do about it. And I don't believe that that's the case for anybody. You know, it's funny that you say that, because when I think about confidence and an example, I always think back to a kid that I coached that was a very good tennis player. That I think he was 8 or 9 years old, and it was funny, after every practice, after every match, he could have just gotten absolutely hammered 0-0. And you go, "How'd you do?" He goes, "I played great." I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I
Delusional.
played great." And I said, "Have you ever played bad?" He said, "No, I don't think I have." It's like, okay. And so, I mean, that is a bit extreme. But I think that that really is what confidence is, the belief in yourself that that's how it went this time. I got to learn from that. What happened? Why did that happen? What can I learn from it? How can I change the outcome going forward? And know that you're not going to do it right and be successful every single time, but you learn from the errors, you learn from the mistakes, you learn from the failures, and you take that knowledge and you do better on the next one. And I think really that's what confidence is to know that, okay, it didn't work this time, but it can work the next time. The tough thing about it is the easiest way to get confidence. Who are the most confident people? The
Winning,
successful people,
the
the
winning,
people that
yes,
are
the
winning.
winning,
Yeah.
yes.
Why? Because they've seen that they can do it. And so to build confidence, you have to set the right goals, and you've got to make them to where they're not so easy that it's a joke and you can kind of laugh it off, but you got to set attainable goals so that you build that confidence. Go, okay, I set the goal to do this. I made that goal. Now I guess I can do this. And then you start to build that road until, okay, there is just about anything I can do.
So basically, there's a guy that talks about tennis, and he says, when you play tennis, you gotta be in your edge of your consistency.
Right.
So here you gotta be in the edge of your belief. You can't do it.
Absolutely.
You gotta be in the edge of your belief. You can't be delusional, but you can't be a overcritical. You gotta be right there, and your goals gotta be very tailored and possible to achieve, but not so easy, right?
Right.
The
Right.
argument gathering after hearing you is that the people that struggle, either they go too fast forward with their head, where they say, "Well, I haven't achieved all this," blah blah blah, or they go too far back. They're not really
Right.
in the present, right? They're not people
Right.
that can stay in that moment right here, right? So, how do you help them to kind of be able to be in the present, for them not to get that head start talking a lot of nonsense to them?
Well, I think it comes down to accountability. Nobody is successful completely by themselves. They have to always have, again, that super successful person has to have somebody in their life that's helping keep them a little bit more humble, you know. And again, the same person that keeps beating up themselves has to have somebody that can pull them forward and go, no, that one didn't go well, but look at the good things that you did in there. Again, if you go back to tennis, you lost the match, okay, but you've been serving like garbage, and this whole match you didn't double fault once. So what have we been working on? The serve. Great job. You got to serve and play every single time. Let's build on that, and we'll go forward. Um, as opposed to the person that won the match and didn't take into account that they just beat a beginner. And it's like, well, hold on, great job winning, but you played terrible. You missed a whole bunch of shots you shouldn't have been missing because you didn't take it serious. And so there is that fine line that not everybody's the same. So you got to take it one on one and go, okay, who are you? Are you overconfident and you're somebody that I'm going to have to dial back a little bit? Or are you somebody that's not seeing enough? Now, most people that are going to call me are people that are on that second boat that don't think that they're any good and
That's
just have to
most likely the
continually be
people that,
right. Well, the person with all the confidence doesn't think they need me. They know everything.
yeah,
Uh,
it's true. You're right. You're 100%. Yes. Yeah, you're 100.
so the people that are going to call me are the ones that think they do everything wrong. And
That's
so it's
you're
like, okay,
right.
hold on. We got to find some of these little things that you're doing correctly recognize that, hey, you do those things, so that means that you can do some other things. You already do this. Now let's look at this. If you can add this piece to it, and just a small step, and go from there. And who knows what that step may be? Again, it kind of depends on what their goals are, but you have to build it by taking the small steps, and continuing to get them to recognize the improvements that they're making, because a lot of times you don't realize that you're making those changes.
Got you. So basically, yeah. So for the most part, you just nail it, and I think this transfers a lot to for the most part the kids that we're gonna work with. They really don't have the confidence.
Right.
90% of them. I mean, the ones that have the really good confidence are very few, basically. For the most part,
Right.
you're getting the guy that doesn't really believe. So
Right.
I
And
see.
a lot of that can come from the coaching, or the family, or the
Yes,
teammates
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
constantly
big.
telling them, hey, you're not good enough. You need to do this.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, it's
look,
being rooted down. Yes, yes,
right.
that's why it's not easy. Talking about that thing, in the athletes, this week I had this interview with again one guy that was basically his assistant coach uh, for University of Illinois, and very good player. And he was talking about confidence, staying in the moment, trying to switch their mindset. So I said to him, I say, okay, when you had this player in this moment and you're sitting next to him, what do you do? What do you tell him? You see that he's going he's going down. He's all wrapped up in his own head. How how do you get him away from that? And he said, I try to talk to him. I try to distract him from that moment. So obviously, in real life, you have a little more time. It's not like the tennis
Right.
where you got to snap out of that nonsense right away. Somehow, in life, you
Right.
have a little more time. What would be strategy? What do you do? Do you journal? What do you do? What do you do to kind of keep yourself in the positive mindset?
Nobody's positive all the time. But to your point, I mean, we'll go back to your example there with the tennis coach. I was very fortunate that my college coach was a mentalist, if you will. That's the perfect example. I can remember a match that I was playing that I was absolutely going bananas, and on the changeover, he didn't tell me anything except for, this is what you're going to do on the next point. So let it go. Basically, what's going on so far to this point doesn't matter. This is what you're going to do on the very next point, and let's start from there, and let's go forward. And I think that that's, again, in life, you have a little bit more time, and if you want to prevent yourself from being in that situation again, you need to recognize and look at it. So yes, journaling is a very big thing that you should be doing. Kind of keeping an eye on what's going on. um, and there's lots of different ways to journal. But I think that journaling is a great way to go. I think, again, an accountability partner, a coach, because the other thing that you have to keep in mind is you only see one view.
One
You know
view.
what I mean? And if you look at an athletic coach, or the armchair quarterbacks watching football that go, oh, why didn't they do this? They should have done that. It's like, well, hold on, what you're seeing from watching it on TV isn't the same thing that that athlete's seeing in real time as it's going on. And so to have that person that kind of sees another side of what's going on, to be able to go back and forth with, I think that's a crucial piece of that, is that, to build the confidence, and to be able to focus on what's going forward, somebody that can kind of go back and forth. Well, this is what I think took place. Okay, that's fine. I see that. What about this side of it? Did you see, maybe this is why that happened? And the truth is somewhere in the middle, and go, okay, let's accept this. How do we prevent it from happening again? How are we going to learn from it? And then let's step forward, and go in a positive direction going there. Again, always coming back to, what can I do differently in the future, or when you're doing things right? Don't just journal and come with the negativity, come with some of the positive things as well. I mean, I think one of the best things coaches can do, and I try to do this anytime a player comes to me after a match, I go, well, how'd you play? I don't even want to hear the score. How'd you play? The things that we worked on, were you doing those things? Tell me some positive things that were going on. Tell me about the things that your opponent was doing. And then once we get through some of those things, now I want to hear about you. Now you tell me about what's going on from you now that you've said all of those other things, because people are so negative, biased, and selfish. The first thing everybody wants to do is come talk about the things that they did. Oh, I did this so bad. I did this so bad. I did this so bad. Well, hold on. What about the things you did right? And what about the fact that the reason you were doing this so badly is because your opponent was doing this so well that you didn't have a choice? And so I think you have to have some of those things where you're not going to see it because you're in it. So somebody else bringing those things to your opponent gives you a different perspective that you can actually build off of.
Very good. Very, very good. Very good. Very good. So I like it. I like it. So now when you have a guy, let's say it's a 10-year-old, that doesn't believe we're using tennis because I'm a tennis coach and it's easier for me to uh, doesn't believe on the way that he plays. He doesn't feel that he's good enough.
Right.
What is something besides journaling that he could do in order for him to little by little get better and start building some trust on his game?
Excuse me.
Talking about a younger kid that sometimes you cannot have him do journaling because he still is too young for that. You know what I mean?
Sure. And he wouldn't understand it.
And he
Right.
wouldn't understand it. It's like, man, I mean, it's just that's not gonna work at this age. How can you, without him knowing really, how can you start building this stuff?
You start doing exercises that he's good at.
Very
You know,
good.
it's interesting. I actually had a girl I went to college with is now coaching her daughter that is loving it, and she's like, "Well, what can I do?" And I said, "Well, here's the thing. You're teaching like you were taught 30 years ago, where people were just feeding balls and they're smacking and going. She's bored out of her mind. If you want her to get excited about this, then you need to do what you can to rally with her. And she's going to enjoy the fact that she's making you run all over the place. And when she hits one by you, she's going to get super pumped about it. And guess what? She wants to do that again. And so I think as the coach of that 10-year-old kid that doesn't think, I mean, do things that they can do and make it,
That's going to build.
you can put on that show that makes it look like they're killing you and they're loving this. And so, I mean, who knows how far down you got to go? Maybe it goes all the way back to just bump ups, and you're both doing it together, and they're struggling to get past 3. Well, that's too bad that you can only do 2. They're doing better than you. I mean, it's a fine line. I'm not saying giving trophies to everybody for participation, but I mean, there are things that you can do. Maybe it's alternating ups between you and them, for example, that you can kind of help control the situation to help them get that confidence until they can do it themselves.
Very good. Jeff, one more question, and I want to let you go. I don't want to keep taking more time away from you. So now you mentioned to me that some of this stuff comes when they're very little, and I was having in my head, as we were talking, the scenario when sometimes I'm very hard with my own daughter,
Right.
you know, and she's gonna grow up with the dad that sometimes is a little bit of an ass, okay,
Right.
and it's hard. How how what's the solution to steer that confidence back? What should I do? What should I think to little by little build that confidence? If that confidence could have been broken from very little, what are the things? Does they need to go to therapy? Does they need to? Do we need to make sure that they do activities where they are successful? What would you say?
I think you remind me of a situation when I was in middle school. I think it was playing on a basketball team that, ironically, a bunch of kids I went to school with played on a different team that
Yeah.
was very good. And one of the kids' dads was the coach. And after the game, I remember telling my parents, like, man, I'm glad I don't play for that team. Their coach was screaming at him the whole time, just yelling at him the whole time. And my dad said, Yeah, but you also didn't notice the fact that he put his arm around every kid that checked out and told them a great job and was saying great job to him all the time too. So you have to be more self-aware that every time that you jump all over your daughter, don't forget to tell her great job when she is doing the right things too. And I think
That's
that
kind of counterbalance, basically. It's kind
you
of
got to
like
counterbalance,
he
right? Because if
counterbalance both of the things. So it basically,
right,
so this is a great way to finish. So basically, the key is to keep that balance tilt
yes,
the right way in the middle. When it tilts too
right.
much away, not so good. And if you are a little high, you gotta be a little more loving on the other side to even it out, basically.
Correct. Well, and when you're getting on her,
Yeah.
why? She has to understand why.
Why?
Otherwise, it's just dad's mean. No, you did this way that you shouldn't be doing. This is what you're supposed to be doing. So, I mean, there's that counterbalance, but there's also, as you said, being an ass just because you're being mean because because she did something stupid. Well, she has to understand what she did that you thought was stupid, and then what you want her to be doing in the future if you want her to improve it.
Very good. Jeff, this I think it was amazing, man. I didn't know what I was gonna run into. I love the way that you presented this interview. I love the subject. I want to get you probably in a month or two. We'll try to do a second one. You know, with me knowing a little more about your subject now and being able to be a little better that way, the listeners can take more out of this interview. But thank you so much for your knowledge, man, and we'll stay in touch,
Thank
okay?
you.
Thank you,
Sounds
man.
good. Thanks, Javier. All right.